Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is proclamation news and gatherance with Professor Johnson at PNG. Thank you all for actually coming in, supporting the show. I don't know if I was just live a minute ago. It's been quite frustrating. Ever so, I do beg your pardon if you was just watching me just moments ago. Um, Obviously I didn't realise that I was on live. I set a schedule for 1 o'clock and I had a phone call coming through, so I kept frustrated and I haven't got a clue. I might have been I've gotten child friendly, so I might have been saying stuff I shouldn't have been saying. So I just want to apologise for that episode. If I was speaking about anyone for whatever reason, because I was highly frustrated, I do apologise again. I really apologise. It's not who I am. I'm a nice person. It's just it's like when you're up against things, you do. It's highly frustrating. So there's my answer to that. But thank you all anyway for supporting the show. I really appreciate it. I've got a few announcements to make. We are sponsored by O2 Guru Devices. Obviously, I want to give an etiquette, you know, stance to everyone listening. When I say in etiquette sense, I mean a professional performance for these companies that help supporting the show. O2 devices, O2 network are the best O2 device, best O2 device out there. It's the best network out there on the market. So yeah, they got the highest broadband performance. Always full coverage over most of United Kingdom. So also you get priorities when you sign up to O2. You get priorities, winning free trips away for you and your loved one to theatre, meals out, trips away, spa days. Um, like all the latest devices. I mean, you're introducing the new Motorola, the new Samsung, the new iPhone, all the latest ones out. 4G, 5G. 5G is out now, as most of you are aware. But they have the best device, and they got best. You want prospects, material with your device, then go with O2. Also, I'd like to suggest we've got a new sponsor with a. Let me say something about this sponsor. This sponsor is not just a sponsor; he's been a friend that saved me in my I would say, worst climate change. Yeah, the worst. We all have ups, highs and lows in life. I was in a bit of a social difference. We're going to sociological change in life. You have a bit of troubles, growing up for you adult, and Well, I've always been an adult, but wrapped around, you could say, youngsters that brushed me up the wrong way. So they helped me out to where I am today. Without them, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I've got another announcement. It's been a great, loyal, very, very pragmatic and etiquette sponsor I've got on board. And, the best I can do is show them my response by helping advertise the company. So, Proclamation News and Gatherance is proudly sponsored by PSS Alarms. When I always say we're protecting your dominion, your safety is paramount. Well, there you go. Ticked off the bucket list. PSS Alarms. I always say think safety, think first when you enter, the motorway, the dual carriageway. But I'm not going to run off on a tangent. But think safety, think first. Protect your business. Protect your house. You got your wife, you got your children there. Protect maybe you own a restaurant or nightclub or building merchants, anything like that. Protect your business with the best CCTV installation you can get. He works with, these CCTV, the sort of things that police run through, high detective departments. So very etiquette and pragmatic works carried out. Add all areas covered, include central station monitoring provided. All work done according to insurance requirements. I mean, the guy I never, carried out any work. I went around pricing up jobs with him, and he'd done a job at Harry Kane's in Potter's Bar, Harry Kane's stepmother's house. It's absolutely ginormous. Well, literally one but next door. They've got a massive field and they had football goals in the back garden. It's absolutely beautiful. So they're the sort of jobs that he's carried out. Very, very, very excellent. And a tidy site is a happy site. It always keeps it very methodical, clean. Yeah, he doesn't smoke, so he knows he's very well health. Someone that smokes on a business, not many people like that. So he's coming fully equipped, health, insurance, and there you go. Insurance around your family. He doesn't smoke in your property. So there you go. Add all areas covered in central station monitoring provided. All work done according to insurance requirements. This is a friend of mine's company. I call him a friend because he saved me at my worst turn of life, and I was in a bad position, and he got me out and got me to where I am today, He's carried out works in Kane's stepmother's house in Hertfordshire, Potter's Bar. He's carried out etiquette works in Essex, such as Casabah Restaurant and many more big businesses like nightclubs, restaurants. I was even pricing a job up with him in massive Indian takeaway, which was around Potter's Bar area, but all over London area, East London, West London, South London. It'll go all through Essex, maybe Sussex, Suffolk perhaps. Wherever you are and you listen in, you can either give me a email at proclamationnewsandgatherance@yahoo. So it's my name, my headline, proclamationnewsandgatherance@yahoo.com. Or please give Tariq Khan a call, please. Here's his contact details if you're ready. 07908. The first 5 numbers, 07908 216 142. So you got 07908. That's the first 5 numbers, and the last 6 digits are 216 142. So there's 11 numbers in a mobile. I'll go again. First 5 numbers, 07908. The last 6 digits to make 11 numbers, 216 142. Or if you'd like to speak to me and I can point you in the right direction, you can call me on 07511 53104. So I'll give you the first. I'll do it 5 digits like I did last time. 07511. The last 6 digits 95314. And you can call me Justin Johnson, but as you know, when I'm being part of the aristocracy socially, I like to be called Professor Johnson. But if you call me by my first name, I'm Mr. Johnson, no problem at all. Installation and maintenance of intruder alarms, fire alarms, CCTV, all work guaranteed and certified to SSAIB standard 24-hour call-out service. Can provide CCTV for pubs, clubs, restaurants, or new businesses set up. Secure your business. Mention Professor Johnson for an extra discount. If you mention my name for a discount, you will get looked after. All the work's guaranteed to SSAIB standards. I mean, I was at one job and he must have been running. This house must have been almost like half a mile long around the perimeter. He was running cables all around the building. That's how good his CCTV, cabling is. Everything's very professionally done. All cable tidied up to out of sight, out of mind. Very, very professional, I must say. And it's secure, multi-million-pound houses. I'm not talking about a £1 million house. Potter's Bar, when you've got acres of land in your garden, you're talking around £6-7 million house, perhaps. I don't know, but that's what I'm saying. This work is absolutely substantial. Depends what you want. No job too small, no job too big. So there you go. Moving on, ladies and gents. That is the main announcement. O2 grew, sponsored by O2 grew devices, and is sponsored by the CCTV installation by Tariq Khan. PSS Solutions. Okay, it's PSS alarms. There you go. So make sure you keep that in your tuition box. Put it in your notes. Put it in your diary. Moving on, ladies and gents, but announce that in the coming of the show. At the moment, we've got 66 on Up Live listeners, and we've got 10 listeners on Castbox. I'm not sure how many listeners, supporters we've got on YouTube, but if you can share, the more people subscribe, the more people get involved, the better. I mean, Up TV, Up Live, I get about, by the end of the show, I have about 300 listeners, 400 listeners in, so I'll be doing exactly the same. So over a course of a week, we're probably getting about, we was averaging around 2,000 a week. That was about Up Live, but now we're going to average around about 5,000 listeners a week. And that's what I'm going to do, predominantly at the start of every show. I'm going to give an announcement of my great sponsored and with professional business people. Mr. Khan and Mr. Johnson always working side by side in politics. You got Sadiq Khan, and the Mayor of London. And we've got Tariq Khan. He is pretty much the Mayor of England, isn't he? Putting up CCTV, protecting the Dominion, and also me giving you the live journalism. I could give the warnings. You get on the phone tomorrow, we've got -15 tomorrow. You might save a car incident going down a shop without thinking about the icy road. So, I do make a big difference giving you the road updates, congestion sometimes, sporadic knife crime, areas to avoid with your children, and I'll give good advice as well. So anyway, climate change, don't raid home insulation scheme. MPs urge ministers. MPs are complaining that the Treasury is set to claw back money from its mismanaged government scheme to help people insulate their homes. I mean, I've had mine done just recently, so that's not going to affect me. The Green Homes Grant Scheme is in such chaos that a huge majority, 1.5 billion, for this year is unspent. The government has said it will pocket that money rather than rolling it over to next year's 320 million fund. But the Environmental Audit Committee says that would be a deeply retrograde step. Conservative MP Philip June, who chairs the committee, told the BBC, "We need a long-term commitment to helping people insulate their homes, at the very least until the end of this Parliament. We Conservatives promised 9.2 billion for energy efficiency in our manifesto, and we have to deliver that or we won't reach our climate change targets." The government's Advisory Climate Change Committee says even more 2 billion of the public money a year is needed until 2030. The current Green Homes programme has been heavily criticised, with householders unable to get quotes from registered contractors and the firms unable to get paid. In a parliamentary answer on Tuesday, the government confirmed only £94 of the 1.5 billion allocated for homes in England until April has so far been spent. Mr. June said the Green Homes Grant Scheme is a good idea, but its implementation has been woeful. He said the scheme, designed to create jobs and improve energy efficiency, had to turn into a job destruction scheme because so many builders laid off their workers when government payments didn't come through. Mr. June said the project had been devised with too much bureaucracy because Treasury officials didn't want a repeat of the Northern Ireland's cash for ash renewable heat scheme, where millions of pounds were lost because rules were badly devised. As a result of the red tape, he said, small builders in the Federation of Master Builders were reluctant to apply for accreditation. Mr. June said out of 7,400 members of the Federation, only 3 had been accredited. Wake-up call. Mr. June's committee says the government needs to invest heavily in carbon cutting measures as part of its response to COVID-19. The report has urged the government to create green jobs by investing in areas such as energy efficiency, nature recovery and adaptation to a heating climate. It wants the government to invest more in walking and cycling, promote electric vehicles and batteries, prompt the Bank of England to green its activities, reduce VAT on repairs and energy efficiency upgrades in homes, consider a carbon tax with levies on high carbon imports. Mr. June said the COVID-19 crisis must be treated as a wake-up call. It is a symptom of a growing ecological emergency. A tax system fit for zero Britain is key. It will encourage innovation, give confidence to the sector, and support companies to make the low carbon transition. The MPs also say ministers should also set targets for the huge amounts of carbon generated to make steel and cement for new buildings. This idea is gaining traction because it would increase the use of construction of wood products that we soaked up the CO2. Will Hurst from the Architects Journal said, for far too long we have ignored the carbon footprint of constructing buildings, worrying only about their energy efficiency once built. Regulations encourage this state of affairs. The VAT system perversively incentivizes wasteful demolition and rebuild while upfront or embodied carbon emissions in construction are largely ignored in planning policy. Building back better. Katarina Brandamari from the think tank Green Alliance said, the report rightly puts the spotlight on what the government still needs to do to deliver a green recovery. Front-loading investment in climate solutions, nature and the circular economy and ensure recovery plans are consistent with climate and environmental goals must be a priority. This will help create jobs and benefit businesses and communities across the country. We could talk about the global climate, the big black smog in China in a minute. A government spokesman said the Treasury was examining ways to fund the UK's transition to net zero emissions, and ministers were committed to building back better and greener from the pandemic. The Prime Minister's recently announced 10-point climate change plan will put the UK at the forefront of the global green industrial revolution and create hundreds of thousands of green jobs. The spokesman added, we can continue to bring forward bold measures to cut emissions, with plans to invest 9 billion in improving the energy efficiency of buildings forming part of our wider commitment to end our contribution to climate change by 2050. I mean, so thank you for the support there. What I want to say is, I mean, some of you guys, like, I mean, especially living in my region, my constituency of Essex, we don't see how bad the carbon monoxide in the fuel emissions is because, I mean, Coal City is, you know, it is a small city. It's the old college town. It is got a cathedral, so it could be called a city in months to come, if it isn't already in the process. But places like London, I mean, in Clacton-on-Sea in the summer, if I was to wear a white shirt, same as London, places like Birmingham, you walk through town with a white shirt and you get all the black carbon dioxide molecules over your shirt. Your shirt becomes dusty, becomes irritated by dirt from the carbon monoxide fumes. This is what they talk about, you know, what they call it, the green thing effect, and that's exactly what they're talking about. You know, carbon monoxide fumes in factories, industrialisation can cause an impact to global climate change. Absolutely. You know, building these massive, you know, skyscraping flats and stuff like that. You know, buildings on top of buildings. China is the work. You know, no disrespect to Chinese people, but their cities are built up on top of each other. It's not a city built outwards; it's a city built upwards. Their buildings are like absolutely ginormous, and I can see before long in China they're going to have them cars like you see in the you know, flying through the air. They're going to be that's what it's going to be like. The future in China is going to be very robotic, like you see in the films. Like Men in Black, well, that was pretty similar to something like that, wasn't it? Pretty sure. But anyway, moving forward, thank you ever so much for supporting the show. It's always phenomenal when you guys come support me. I can't thank you all enough for giving me some observations, preservance, you know, just, you know, also taking part. Sometimes I get my friend Aidan Chapman come through on Castbox. He calls in, giving us a bit of netiquette research. We have a bit of discussion between us. It's great to have different folks calling in, speaking about, if you're from India, Pakistan, talking about, to let everyone else know, because I hate people that become ill mannered with their ethnicity, like English people coming ill manners. It happens in all countries. Everyone comes ill mannered towards one another, hatred. But we need to start loving one another like a brother and a sister. People, we need to realise globalisation, when it comes to clothes, cars, is good in everybody, every single nation. I don't commit any war or hate towards anyone because I know there's good and a very good in a lot of valuation of people if you sit there and actually listen to them speak. So that's why I like doing netiquette research from different people around different regions of the world. I find that if they're not, the English ain't very good. It's not their fault. My English is only all I've got. I can't speak any other. I've got no other talent but English. So yeah, I might find it frustrating as well as you might find me frustrating. But there's no hatred there. It's just a difference of our understanding one another. So amen, brothers and sisters. COVID. Dominic Raab calls for global ceasefires to allow for vaccinations. Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab has called for ceasefires to allow those living in war-torn areas to get vaccinated. He will also use a meeting of the UN Security Council to encourage other countries to provide more vaccine support to vulnerable areas. The government says more than 160 million people in places such as Yemen could miss out on vaccines due to war. Oxfam said the UK needed to help unblock the supply system. Sam Nadal, head of policy for the charity, welcomed the call for ceasefire but said the government should insist that vaccine information is no longer treated as a private property of a handful of pharmaceutical corporations, but is shared with qualified manufacturers around the world, so that production can be urgently scaled up. Without a massive increase in vaccine production, countries enduring conflict will not get enough doses of COVID-19 vaccines for everyone that needs one, he said. On Wednesday, Mr. Raab will chair a meeting of the UN Security Council where he is expected to warn that failing to support global vaccinations will increase the risk of new variants and new waves of the virus emerging. In addition to calling for ceasefire, he will stress the importance of overcoming logistical barriers to vaccine delivery, such as shortage and supply lines. And he wants the international community to be able to monitor deliveries and the extent to which groups are abiding by ceasefire teams. And he wants international communities to be able to monitor delivery and the extent which groups are aiding ceasefire teams. Sorry. The Foreign Secretary will also push more funding for the UN, the World Health Organization, and the COVAX Advanced Market Commitment, a global scheme aimed at improving access to the vaccine. The government says it's one of the largest contributors to the initiative, having donated 548 million. Speaking to BBC, Mr. Raab has said, "We should be putting it on shoulder to will," he said, adding, "That is what the global Britain is all about." Prime Minister Boris Johnson is expected to set out more details on vaccinating refugees and people in conflict areas at a virtual meeting of the GC11s on Friday. Earlier this month, the head of the World Health Organization said unequal vaccine supplies across the world was leading to a catastrophic moral failure. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus argued that it was not fair for healthy people in richer nations to get injections before vulnerable people in poorer states. I mean, you've got these war-torn countries. I mean, they've got men's rehabilitations. They're going out to kill one another. Excuse me, you've got to stop, ceasefire, you're taking your COVID vaccination. I think they might likely turn around with a bazooka and blow your head off, Dominic Raab. That's quite a good call there, sir, but I think that was a bit, yeah. You try and get in the middle of Mike Tyson and Anthony Joshua and say, "Stop punching, lads. You've got to have your vaccination." I think Dominic Raab is going to get his head taken off. So he's got to think logically. I know he's trying to put a message out there, but I don't think these to say war veterans, these war-hungry people are going to listen to let's get a vaccination. I don't think they're worried about getting a bullet in the head, otherwise wouldn't be going to war in the first place. But anyway, vaccination ceasefires have been implemented in parts, including 2000 when Afghanistan were war sides paused fighting to allow the UN to immunise children against polio. I don't know. If it works, then well done. The UK government has now expressed particular concern about Yemen, Somalia, South Sudan, and Ethiopia being able to roll out the vaccine. And you got Somalia. That's where a lot of piracy comes because they're such a poor country to go out to nick their resources. Um, they've probably been overtaken by other countries, taking like me and my friend was suggesting yesterday. People into Somalia to take their oil and they're stealing off them. They're not a strong enough country to keep conflict coming in. In Ethiopia, conflict between the government and regional forces started November last year and has led to 52,000 deaths and 60,000 seeking refuge in neighbouring Sudan. And in Yemen, a 7-year battle between the UK-backed government and Houthi rebels has left millions on the blink of starvation. Labour's Shadow Foreign Secretary Lisa Nandy said Mr Raab was keen to talk about the 100 million the UK is providing to mitigate the humanitarian crisis in Yemen, but far less to discuss the 5.3 billion in arms sales to Saudi Arabia that sustain the conflict. It's been a great start of the show, ladies and gentlemen. Nearly come up to the half hour. We've got some different segments to get through. We've got front bench politics, big issue, what's going on well in Hatfield, Essex Live. Make sure you stay tuned because if you see anything that's going to put your business or your loved ones in jeopardy, it's worth giving a shout across to your constituencies. Look out for these juveniles going around stealing bikes, nicking baby pushchairs. You never know what's going to come up in the headlines in journalism. Could be sex predators in the area outside schools. So stay tuned and please give us some support and a share. I think we have got a. I'm just going to give you. We're going for a short break in a minute, but we're also on Patreon, ladies and gents. I've got my own page on Patreon. Sorry, Patreon. I'll give you my name. You can always, if you do want to support the show, I think it's like £3 a month membership, but you can always just pay one, cancel at any time you like, just to show that you're supporting the show. You can cancel your subscription straight away, so it's no problem. I appreciate anyone that could, give us a little bit of a donation. It's nothing I could do. If you didn't want to do it that way, I could always give you my. I was going to do a GoFundMe account, but I'm not going to go right at the boundaries. I will do a PayPal. I'll put on PayPal up if you guys wouldn't mind. Donating something small as a 50p for the hard effort I put in day in, day out. I sit here 3-4 hours a day just giving the journalism, and then I've got to publish it all over social media. And it's not just a case of one button. I've got to put all the headlines in, alternate the numbers and make it look methodical and approachable. You think as a digital analyst, specialist, how much time and effort they put into putting their headlines into the analytics of their promotion, It takes a lot of time and effort after, if there's 15 different segments in my style, which is usually about a 3-hour show, 2-3 hour show, 15 segments of broadsheet broadcast. It takes a lot of time. I'll tell you that. It takes me about another 2 hours after the show. So you're talking about 7-8 hours. It took me about an hour and a half just to set this up this morning. I've got two devices on Castbox, up live TV. I have to post the content, what we're doing on it, and then YouTube, and I promote it on Facebook before I started, as well as getting my sponsors ready to take action for the show. Because I don't know everything off the top of my head. I'm quite a methodical, intelligent guy, but even you see these legislators in a court, they've got their script all typed out. This is Rees Mogg. We're not going to listen to Rees Mogg now. We're going to go into this. Anyone coming through up live, please support the show. Boris Borough Brexit. My shoulder is really hurting me. Boris Johnson, ladies and gents. Thank you all for supporting the show. Absolute phenomenal. Prodigious effort for everyone being observant and preserved.
The army and the pharmacists like Hardick Desai, who rallied local volunteers to vaccinate 3,000 people in his village hall in Ticehurst in Sussex, while keeping his pharmacy open. And of course, I thank all of you who have come forward to be vaccinated. This is an unprecedented national achievement, but it's no moment to relax. And in fact, it's the moment to accelerate, because the threat from this virus remains very real. Yes, it's true. We vaccinated more than 90% of those aged over 70, but don't forget that 60% of hospital patients with COVID are under 70. And although the vaccination program is going well, we still don't have enough data about the exact effectiveness of the vaccines in reducing the spread of infection. We have some interesting straws in the wind, we have grounds for confidence, but the vaccinations have only been running for a matter of weeks. And while we're learning the whole time, we don't today, as I talk to you today, we don't have all the hard facts that we need. And the level of infection remains very high, with still more people today, still in hospital today than in the at the peak last April. And admissions across the UK, very important statistic, admissions running at 1,600 a day. So we have to keep our foot to the floor. And I can tell you that today, the next million letters are landing on people's mats right now, offering appointments to the over 65s. And we're also contacting all those aged between 16 and 64 with underlying health conditions, as well as adult carers. And if we can keep this pace up, and if we can keep supply steady, and I believe we can, then we hope to offer a vaccination to everyone in the first 9 priority groups, including everyone over 50 by the end of April. And at the same time, we will be giving second doses to millions of the most vulnerable within 12 weeks of the first. So this moment is a huge step forward, but it's only a first step. And while it shows what the country can do, we must be both optimistic but also patient. And next week, I'll be setting out a roadmap saying as much as we possibly can about the route to normality, even though some things are very uncertain. Because we want this lockdown to be the last. And we want progress to be cautious, but also irreversible. So please continue to stay at home, protect the NHS, and save lives. Thank you very much. I'm now going to ask Chris to do the slides.
Thank you, Prime Minister. First slide, please. 3 slides today. The first one is just showing the number of people testing positive for COVID over time. And as you can see on this graph, the numbers are coming down steadily over time, but they're still at quite a high level and above the point where it was, for example, in September last year. So significant progress, but still quite high. Next slide, please. If we look at people in hospital in the UK, this again is coming down. Of course, this follows slightly later than the rates of new cases. Again, the rates are still very high, so they're around the point, in fact, slightly above the point, which they were at the peak of the epidemic in April of last year. So these are still very high rates, but they're definitely heading in the right direction. Next slide, please. And finally, on deaths, the number of people who've sadly died with COVID remains high, but is continuing to go down. So the most recent 7-day average was 657 deaths. Still a very high number, but definitely heading in the right direction. This is now below the peak of the first wave we had last year. Last slide, please. And this slide just shows the steady improvement in the number of people who have been vaccinated, thanks to the extraordinary work of people in the NHS, the people that the Prime Minister is talking about. And I'd very much like to add, as everyone would, huge thanks to the doctors, nurses, volunteers, and administrative people who are making this happen. It is an extraordinary achievement. Now, I wanted just finally to say how the protection from vaccination will build, because it doesn't all happen in one go. The first layer of protection is people being protected by their first vaccine. But remember, this only starts to work sometime between 2 and 3 weeks later. People are not immediately protected. Then people will have a second vaccine, and that will strengthen the level of protection and also make it more long-lasting. So it's absolutely essential that when people are asked to go back for their second vaccine, they do so. The third layer of protection out is we're confident that these vaccines will produce some level of protection from transmission. We don't yet know exactly how much. So if people who are vulnerable meet other people who are vaccinated, that will provide another layer of protection for them. And finally, further out, once we have a high proportion of the population vaccinated, this will help to reduce the rates of transmission, reduce the risks of big surges. So this also provides a level of protection. So the more we vaccinate out in the community, the more we protect those who are potentially vulnerable. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Chris. Let's go to Simon Stevens, whose NHS staff have been doing the lion's share of this vaccination campaign. Simon.
Thank you, Prime Minister. 15 million vaccinations in 10 weeks would be an enormous undertaking at any time, but doing so during the course of this surge of winter coronavirus, when the health service has been under the most intense pressure and hospitals have looked after more than 100,000 severely ill coronavirus patients in just the last month, that really has been an extraordinary national team effort. And for families and patients across the country, you've been able to see for yourselves the speed and the precision with which the vaccination campaign has been undertaken. So I joined the Prime Minister and the Chief Medical Officer in thanking everybody who's been involved. Of course, our GPs, our nurses, our pharmacists, the entire staff of the health service, but also our partners, the volunteers, the local authorities, the local businesses, the armed forces, and many others who've rallied round to get us to the place that we are today. But today, as the Prime Minister said, is definitely not a mission accomplished. I've described the vaccination campaign as 2 sprints and a marathon. We've just come through the finishing line of the first sprint, and now we've got a second sprint between now and the 30th of April to extend the number of vaccinations given to the higher risk groups of the population, before then moving on to the marathon, which will be vaccination for everybody in the country who's eligible, as well as the winter flu campaign and potentially further COVID booster shots this autumn, if that's what the science suggests is needed. So perhaps I could just spend a moment on what this next sprint looks like, the 11 weeks between now and the end of April. We're going to be doing 3 things. First of all, if you're in one of the groups who've already been asked to come forward for vaccination, and you're one of the few people who haven't chosen to do so, you still can do that. So although, as the Prime Minister says, uptake has been fantastic, we thought that perhaps 3/4 of people would accept the offer to be vaccinated. For people aged 70 and above, as the Prime Minister says, that's over 90%. Nevertheless, if you haven't yet taken up that opportunity, you still can do so. Get back in touch with the NHS, with your local GP, and that will be arranged. The second thing we're going to be doing between now and the end of April is making sure that people get the second booster doses for those who have already had their first dose. And that will particularly begin from early to mid-March, as when the first vaccinations occurs. We are reserving the vaccines that are needed for that, and you will go back to the same place where you had your first vaccination, and if you don't already have an appointment for that, don't worry, the NHS will contact you to set up that second booster shot. And then, of course, the third thing we're going to be doing between now and the end of April is extending the offer to a larger group of people. In fact, more people in this next group than we've vaccinated in the first group since the beginning of the programme through to today. And for people aged 65 to 69, as the Prime Minister says, you will be getting letters today, tomorrow, this week, inviting you to book in for your vaccination. In the first instance, we're inviting you to consider doing so at one of the larger vaccination centres or the pharmacists who are part of the programme. But if that's not convenient for you, you can hold on and you will be contacted by your local GP. The reason we're doing that is we want the GPs, who together have done about 3/4 of all the vaccinations so far, to use the next several weeks to focus particularly on more than 6 million people who have got underlying health conditions that put them at higher risk. And given the relationship they've got with their local practice and the long-term health conditions that the GPs are already familiar with managing, that makes sense for the GPs to be focusing on that group of people over the next several weeks. Those, for example, are people with diabetes, with heart problems, with severe learning disabilities or mental illnesses. If you're in one of those categories, your GP locally will be in touch with you, asking you to come forward for vaccination. But we're also going to be offering vaccination to younger adults living in care homes or communal settings, as well as to eligible adult carers. And they will be also contacted by letter through the National Booking Service. So in a nutshell, wait for the NHS to get in touch with you. Invites will be on a rolling basis when it's your turn, because in this next phase, this second sprint, actually we're going to be vaccinating a larger number of people than in the first sprint. And overall, although supply will vary week to week and we'll have to adjust accordingly, we may be giving up to twice as many vaccinations overall, given we've got to be doing the second doses as well, than we've done in the first sprint. So I think in conclusion, a big thank you to the public for helping us get this right. An enormous thanks to staff and volunteers and partners across the health service for getting this done. And if you'll forgive coining the phrase, Prime Minister, I think what my colleagues across the health service are saying is, give us the tools, the vaccines, and we will finish the job.
Well, thank you very much, Simon. We certainly intend to do everything we can to give you those vaccines. Let's go to Sarah from Basildon.
Given the likely need for an autumn COVID vaccine booster, and then possibly one annually thereafter, how will the NHS cope with the ongoing pressure to vaccinate millions of people quickly on an almost never-ending cycle, and be able to resume a more normal health service provision at the same time?
Well, thanks, Sarah. My instinctive answer is that the NHS runs massive vaccination programs for flu every year, but perhaps Chris and Simon will answer that one. Chris, want to go first?
So I've got a medical answer.
Yeah,
Simon
sure.
will give a practical answer on this. I mean, in terms of COVID revaccination, there are essentially two reasons potentially to do this. One of which is if immunity is starting to wane, and we don't really know how long we will have to have between revaccinations. It might be a long period, it might be short. It's too early really to tell. And the second reason is if we end up with variants of the virus that can escape around the immunity which the vaccine provides. And there's, I think, reasonable evidence that we may have to do that this year, because there are several variants that look very similar to one another in many ways, which actually could have slightly reduced, not completely reduced, but slightly reduced, or in some cases more than slightly reduced effectiveness from the vaccine. In which case we then redesign the vaccine, scientists redesign the vaccine, and that allows to revaccinate against the new variant. But how regularly we will have to do this, and whether it has to be the whole population, or as is more common with, for example, flu, just limiting it to those who've got the highest risk from health, we'll have to see, and it'll probably vary year by year. But I don't think it should be seen as we're having to do something on this scale continuously. I think it'll be more limited and dependent on how frequently we have to do it.
So just adding to what Chris has said, I think the first thing to say is that we've obviously got many thousands of volunteers who've come back to help, and even if not all of them are vaccinating right now, over time during the course of the year we will be asking them to help out. This morning I was in Oxford at one of our vaccination centres. The St John's Ambulance doing a fantastic job training volunteers to help with the programme. in Coventry on Friday, where I was talking to a retired nurse who'd come back to help. So I think we can expand the number of people who are helping over and above the usual NHS workforce. And as vaccine supply increases, we'd expect that more pharmacists, high street pharmacists, will be able to do more of the vaccinations as well in the way that would normally happen during the flu season.
Thanks very much. Yes, the role of high street pharmacists is incredibly important. Hannah from Glasgow.
More and more people are feeling the weight of the epidemic now and seeking support for their mental health, but feeling totally lost. I'm personally very concerned about some friends of mine who have displayed worrying changes in behaviour, but don't know where to turn. Will the government commit to a mental health spokesperson at the next coronavirus briefing to set out to the public how they can access mental health support?
Well, Hannah, I think that's actually a good idea, because there's no question that as this goes on and the lockdown continues, the stresses and strains are really, alas, I think beginning to tell on people. And it's very important for everybody to realise that NHS mental health services are still there for you. You should use them if you need them. We've put a lot more money into supporting them, another £500 million into supporting NHS mental health on top of the 12 or 13 billion investment. But it's very important that people make use of those services if they need them. It's also important to reach out to the voluntary sector, the mental health charities that the government is also supporting. They can be of great assistance as well. So, Hannah, I think you're making a very valid point, and we'll try and find the right person to say something about how to do this and how to encourage everybody really to look after our mental well-being and try and keep going through this pandemic, because I hope that there isn't that much longer to go now, but clearly people have been under a lot of pressure, and we've got to address that. Anything you want to add, Simon, to that?
Just one thing just to add, just because it's starting today, is that one of the next priority groups is people who have got significant mental health problems, so things like significant schizophrenia or significant bipolar spectrum disorders. So I think it's important that people are supported to get vaccination. That's obviously separate to and additional to the points the PM was making more widely.
And just thinking how one of the people that we could perhaps get up to talk a bit about how we're tackling the issue is Dr. Alex George, who I've appointed as our special representative, the government special representative on these mental health issues, particularly as they affect young people. So I think we'll get Alex up and perhaps some others as well. Thank you very much, Hannah. Let's go to Alex Forsyth of the BBC.
Thank you very much. Prime Minister, you say you want this to be the last lockdown, but can you really give that guarantee given the unpredictable nature of this pandemic? And does that mean we're looking at a very gradual easing of restrictions? Should we rule out get-togethers and getaways at Easter, for example?
Alex, no, I can't give that guarantee. Of course not, because we're battling with nature, with a disease that is capable of mutating and changing. I'm increasingly confident, I'm increasingly optimistic about the sheer extent of the possibilities that are opening up with vaccinations. I'll be setting out as much of it as we can give on the 22nd, and I'm very hopeful that we'll be able to go ahead and open things up, and I'll be saying that. But to say I can give an absolute cast iron guarantee that we won't face further difficulties and have to think harder and deeper about some problems. No, Alex, at this stage I can't. But I don't want people to think that I'm not optimistic. I think there's been a big change, and the big change is that science is now unquestionably in the ascendancy over the disease, and that's manifested in all sorts of ways, not just through vaccination, but also with better therapies, and they're getting better the whole time. So, people should be very, very much encouraged by what's going on at the moment, but we want to set out a timetable that is realistic, and that means one that is obviously cautious and takes account of the real state of the pandemic.
Thank you.
Anything to add to that? No, fine, thank you. Thank you very much, Alex. Carl Dillon, ITV.
Thank you, Prime Minister. I'd just like to find out how cautious you intend to be. Once you have got schools reopened fully, as you hope to do on the 8th of March, will you wait then to see what effect the reopening of schools has had on the rate of infections before you open up anything else? And how long might that take? And also, do you think that you will be able to announce any other lifting of restrictions at the same time as you make your announcement, whatever it may be, on schools? For example, do you think you might be able to tell people they can at least start socialising outdoors? And one quick one for Chris Whitty, if I may. I think you have said in the past the first place that we will see the effect in the data of the vaccination programme is on the death rate. Do you think we're seeing that yet? And if not, when would you expect to see it?
Carl, great questions, but again, really, as I said to Alex, or perhaps as I didn't say to Alex, I think I'll be setting out as much as I possibly can, but we don't really yet have sufficient clarity on the data to be sure now, today, as of this Monday the 15th, exactly what we'll be able to say to you on Monday the 22nd. And that's because the data becomes clearer with every day that passes. We have to continue to evaluate, and also to be absolutely clear with you, Carl, these decisions we will take in the course of this week, but they're not yet taken. And I would just humbly advise anybody, reading accounts of what we're going to do, or hearing about accounts of what we're going to do at such and such a time in the course of the next few months, to take them with a pinch of salt, folks, because this is still speculation. When I explain on the 22nd what we're going to do, you'll be hearing it directly from me.
On the specific question you asked me, we're obviously putting a lot of effort into trying to link together data on vaccination status compared to admission to hospital as a marker of severe disease and the people who die, which obviously happens slightly later. I think the earliest indications would imply there's some effect, but I think it's too early to be able to put a number on that. Obviously, Israel is particularly far ahead in its vaccination program, and there is some evidence of effects. We would expect to see some evidence that is strong enough to be able to put into the public domain in the next few weeks.
Thanks, Carl. Sam Coates, Sky.
Prime Minister, you warned this morning that no vaccination programme is 100% effective. Can you just spell out what you mean by that and the implications of that? And Professor Chris Whitty, what are the implications of this for protecting public health? Do you think some social distancing measures will now become permanent?
Thanks very much, Sam. Well, I'll ask Chris also to comment on this point about the effectiveness of vaccination programs. But clearly, there will be some people. If you have a vaccine that is 80 or 90% effective, whatever the figure is, there'll be at least some people, logically, who will not benefit from it as much as others. We think, and therefore, there's no vaccination program that we know of that is 100% effective in protecting everybody who gets the vaccination from disease. We think, and we have good reason to think, that both the vaccines we're currently using, obviously there are more coming down the track, both of them are effective in offering you a high degree of protection against serious disease or death, and that's a great thing. We're unable at the moment, Sam, precisely to quantify what that means in terms of driving down the incidence of the pandemic in this country, how fast that can go. And that's why we just have to be cautious at the moment. As Chris was just saying, we've got some straws in the wind. There's some interesting data from Israel, but we just need to wait a little bit longer before we can talk with authority about the effectiveness of the overall program. We know it's going to work. It's the speed at which it works is really what it was still waiting to see. I think it's fair to say.
And in terms of, firstly, on the general point about the vaccines, the effect of this, as I tried to lay out right at the beginning, will build. So people's first vaccines, second vaccines, then everyone they meet being vaccinated, and the whole population being vaccinated. In the longer term, we hope the whole world being vaccinated, because it has been repeatedly said and rightly said that no one is safe until everyone is safe. But what that means is the risk will gradually go down. So it won't suddenly move from you having to do everything to nothing. This is going to be gradually, little by little, we will de-risk it. And other bits of medical science, like improved treatment, positive trial results last week, for example, really excellent piece about tocilizumab. The effects of all of these together will gradually reduce the risk of this, but whether it'll get it down to the point where it's zero for all time, or whether it'll take it down to a very low level where there's some residual risk, or a level where very occasionally we have to do things in particular points in the season, for example. I think it's too early to say. Clearly, the hope is we get to a point where the minimum effort is used by things like any kind of social distancing, and by far the majority or all of the heavy lifting is done by vaccination and drugs, and the basic things like washing hands, which people should be doing anyway.
What's the name of that drug again, Chris?
Tocilizumab.
Say again?
Tocilizumab.
We're going to get this right. Is it tocilizumab?
Near enough, yeah.
Something like that. Okay, this is the one we've got to make sure we get this right.
Tocilizumab.
Tocilizumab. There you go. Okay, we're going to have to know that as well as we know dexamethasone. Tocilizumab, folks. That's the one, and that helps to drive down mortality.
On top of the steroids already, another very good trial done here in the UK, thanks to the NHS and the National Institute for Health Research in our trial.
Tocilizumab. Okay, good. Thank you. Jasmine Cameron Chileshi from the FT.
Thank you. We know that there remain ongoing concerns surrounding vaccine hesitancy and uptake, particularly among ethnic minorities and social care workers. Currently, there isn't publicly available NHS data detailing how many people have turned down their offer of a vaccine. Would the government be open to publishing more information on vaccine uptake, and what specific steps has the government taken to address issues relating to vaccine hesitancy and the spreading of disinformation, particularly among minority groups? And lastly, Prime Minister, you said this morning that the government wouldn't be keen on using vaccine passports within facilities such as pubs. But how does the government intend to prevent companies from mandating that all employees, all customers, have to have some form of proof of vaccination before being able to use their services? Thank you.
Thanks.
So Jasmine, you're completely right. There is a real concern about the hesitancy on the part of some Black and South Asian communities to accept the vaccine offer that they're receiving, either at work if they're a social care worker or as a member of the public. What is happening about that is that there is a huge effort involving community leaders, faith leaders, the way in which the NHS itself is administering the vaccine programme to overcome that. And although the start was slower in terms of the uptake in some of those communities, I think we are now seeing meaningful progress. For example, in Hackney this past weekend, we were vaccinating at a mosque and also at an Orthodox Jewish site after Shabbat had finished vaccinating up until midnight. I was with one of the lead imams this morning in Oxford, who'd arranged for a Zoom with one of the top sheikhs in the world to help explain why vaccines are safe as well as why they work. So I think this will build momentum, and let's face it, part of what we're up against is a dual epidemic. We're up against the pandemic of COVID, and we're up against a pandemic of disinformation and the deliberately sowing of mistrust, and we've got to fight both with equal vigour. On your data point, by the way, we do publish weekly the uptake by different ethnic groups, and at a local area, we share with local directors of public health the uptake in a very granular way while protecting people's medical confidentiality. And we're certainly going to continue publishing more and more data as we have it, while nevertheless, as I say, protecting individuals and families' own confidentiality.
Oh, yes.
This is absolutely essential, and I think just to repeat in a sense something which Simon said, many people may not take it up immediately, but will take it up.
I'm going to get on with the show, ladies and gentlemen. This could go on for absolute decades now. I've got 9 minutes, but we're going to come back to this shortly. Thank you ever so much for being observant. Keep yourself preserved. I mean, that's what I say. Sometimes, I know it's sad to say, keep yourself independent. Keeping your mind busy, observing what's going on, the issues around the world. Every day politics is involved. And not just man's life, a woman's life as well. You could be coming up against some economic crisis that's going to burst your family's welfare, If it's population growth, it's going to, combust the economic finance. Who knows? Democracy's finance, not the economic finance. The democracy's finance, it could combust and go into some sort of money evaporation and then, come to a standstill in the climate. So who knows? We've got public austerity with COVID-19, no one going back to work. Anything could be coming up to the horizon. Does money grow on trees? It seems to be just so, doesn't it? Everyone out of work at the moment, we're all getting supported in such climate. COVID-19, this is very good. Anne Longfield says, make children a priority after pandemic. Absolutely, making children a priority. Should they be going back to school? Their injection, I think not. That's my perspective, because we could be going back to square one again. I mean, looking at evaluating the R number from last year to what it is today. It's not much different from today what it was last year. So they've got to sit there and think. All the political analysts, evaluators got to sit there and think. There's not much change into what last year was, still people catching and getting COVID. It's absolutely phenomenal how many people are supporting the show. We've got over about 600-700 listeners. I'm very, very thankful. Up Live TV, I've got 320. Sorry, no, 320. That was a bit of a. I thought it was a 5. I've got to jump into conclusions. Going on a bit of a tangent there with the adding numbers. I don't like to get things wrong. I like to stay, as an analytic kind of point of view perspective. I like to get numbers right. So we've got about 4,500 people listening. So thank you all for listening. We're going to do some more advertisements for sponsors and people jumping on board, supporting the show. Believing in what I'm doing is what I do every day. It's methodical. Methodical engineering. People want to support you because I'm airing out to not just 2-3 people. I'm airing out to hundreds, and I'm sharing it on social media, probably broadening my horizon, something in the region of possible millions sometimes, because I'm advertising everywhere on Pinterest, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Castbox, YouTube. Up Live TV is another new market thing. It's reaching an audience of God across the whole globe. Thank you ever so much there. Sufika Bharti, he says it's saying well, very good, well done. Thank you ever so much. That's a shout out to you there, Sufika Bharti, wherever you are. I'm guessing probably somewhere like Iran, Iraq. I'm not quite sure. I'm just guessing at a name. Anyway, vulnerable children must be at the heart of government plans to build back better after the pandemic. England's Children's Commissioner said. I mean, you got to remember, this politics sort of relates to everyone globally. Everyone's politics in their region differs slightly because of inequalities, perhaps. Inequalities throughout their societies, poorer run countries, or the government stricter on certain different things. So it sort of relates to everyone to a certain degree. But you can also also emphasise in what your democracy is like to what ours is as well. So it gives you an insight to where are you safer in your country, or am I safer in your own country? Because a place like Switzerland and it's a well run government, as Nigel Farage was suggesting just that yesterday. They're part of the EU, I believe. Yeah, they're part of the EU, but the way they run their country, they're a rich country. Sweden as well, Russia, all their government sectors are total diverse compared to what ours are. Absolutely. Vulnerable children must be at the heart of the government plans to build back better after the pandemic. England Children's Commissioner says. And Longfield, which she has called on Boris Johnson to put them at the centre of the state's plans to level up the nation. Absolutely, I think he has as well. He's got to think adamantly. Should the kids be going back after Easter? Obviously, that is the main subject to get the parents a respite and the children into safety, really, because everyone's suffering from mental health. Do you want to be stuck around your children 24/7? It's lovely living with your children, living with your children 24/7, but at the same time, children are very needy. You need that little bit of breakaway. Sad to say, I wouldn't like to say I want my children with me 24/7 every single time of day, but when you're trying to do something, as I'm doing now, and Dad can have a sandwich, Dad can't do this, can we go there? You can't be there every given time because parents do become soft when it comes to their children, is what I'm suggesting. So don't start analysing my well-being towards my children, my parenting skills, because I'm very, very, very responsible. Same as I'm supporting a democracy as a whole. I'm giving you up very good guidance to safety throughout the UK. Anne Longfield calls on Boris Johnson to put them at the centre of the stage plan to level up the nation. In a final speech after 6 years in the role, she said it was a terrible thing that most of their lives would have got worse during the pandemic. Ministers said protecting vulnerable children was central to its response. I mean, when you say children, imagine these active children that usually go by their day doing their sporting activities, or maybe going to art club or a writing club, or Cub Scouts, Beavers, after all these after school clubs are now come to a standstill. Your kids' mental health of getting away from, I know parents, it's a bit hostile in their home environment, I've been in a end of a tether of a relationship, at end of a tether in any relationship, doesn't matter how run smooth it was for 15, 16, 20 years, 40 years, the end of it is going to be sour grapes, you're coming at the end of a bad climate, it's almost like a World War scenario. Not literally a World War scenario, but the stability of each other, the way you throwing tit for tat at each other, trying to get out of each other's pocket once and for all. It's putting stress on both mother and father of the children, and stress on the children also. So that can become quite hostile in that situation. You need to get out, seek a level playing field. A spokesperson added, that is why we have enabled the most vulnerable children to continue attending school in person, while providing laptops, devices and data packages to those learning at home and ensuring the most disadvantaged children are fed and warm. It comes after warnings that children may be losing all hope for their future, and as surveys suggest, young people's mental health is worsening, partly due to the fallout from COVID-19. Miss Longfield, Prime Minister's commitment to putting schools at the heart of reopening of society when lockdown eases was really welcome. There have been points during the year where I was dismayed when schools stayed shut and shops and pubs opened, but the Prime Minister's come behind what we were pushing for, which was for the schools to be the last to close and the first to open, she told BBC Radio 4's Today programme. She estimated around 10 billion will be needed for children's mental health support and help for pupils in school to catch up. Miss Longfield said she believed Boris Johnson wants to build back better for children, but did not think he has the structures in government around him to be able to do that. Talking about, moving on to the big issue about getting children back to school, we want them in a safe environment. Are they safe to go back with the R number so drastic? Who knows? I'm not the one to point that direction, but me personally would say don't let kids go back to school till at least 80% of the population have had the COVID vaccination. Even if it takes another half a year, so be it. Anyway, I want to something to come, we all have our highs and lows in life. This is one of the lowest moments for the homeless people to come back. It goes to show you can be hit so hard in life, but come back on your maybe plan A of aspirations that you set out in, 1993 perhaps, something that you plan A when you were a kid that you really wanted to do and become, but sport took over perhaps, or family life, relationship, or some sort of struggle, loss of parents, loss of loved ones. The big issue was launched in 1991. I have to issue this awareness because I worked in a homeless shelter and I see some people suffering. When we talk about inequalities, people suffering through life. I mean, I was suffering, but coming out of a better end of a sufferance, I'd say. I was coming up really responsible, maturity, masculinity, a set in stone that I had to man up and become wise with wisdom and great with aspirations. And I didn't go in hammer and tong. I sat back, took it in my stride. I took on ECDL level 2, and a minute I'm doing business management level 2, university. I've taken it in my stride. I mean, I did jump into it right at the deep end, come overwhelmed, but I know what to expect for the second part. Well, it'll be the third part of the year come October. As you know, I'm evaluating broadsheet and tabloid newspapers. But this is what we're going through today. The big issue was launched in 1991 by Gordon Roddick and John Bird in response to the growing number of rough sleepers on the streets in London. The two believed that the key to solving the problem of homelessness lay in helping people to help themselves. Vendors buy their magazines with their own money and sell them at their own profit or a loss. You see them sitting on the streets. People, look them up and down and think, he's homeless, it's not helping. But you know what? At least they're doing something in the community. They're doing the best they can. It's absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely amazing. It is phenomenal. You get critics try and put you down. Whatever you do in life, you could be a bricklayer, you could be a cement lorry driver. You can get grumpy people on a building site say, bring the lorry over here, wash my barrow out, wash my dumper out, shouting at you. Whatever you do in life, you're going to get people put you down. You've got to be happy in yourself, what you do, and polarize good content, whatever you do. Enjoy it. The best thing about having aspirations and going, knees deep in your aspirations is you've got to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, then that's not for you, London Marathon is set for record-breaking year. After the disappointment of the cancellation of last year's event, London Marathon's come back bigger and better this October with a record-breaking event. This is worrying times, they're coming back with bigger, better, record-breaking event. More people. We're talking about, boys talking about coming out of these restrictions. Then we're going to add stress for these big participants. Hugh Basher, the London Marathon event director, says the world record-breaking success of virtual event in 2020 and the incredible stories from the participants across the globe showed how the world's greatest marathon brought light and hope in the darkness of the pandemic. We want to offer that again, and we have also accelerated plans we have been working on for some years to increase the number of finishers on the streets of London to 50,000. London Marathon ballot results are now out, so whether you were one of the lucky ones to get a place or are left disappointed and looking for a way to get involved, either in the physical or virtual event, we'd love you to join TBIF. I don't know if that, because last year when that marathon was on, I think it was you just enter and you run it in your own direction, on your own. I'm not sure if it's going to be the same when it says virtual London Marathon. We're going to get into that next, so I'm just surmising. I'm trying to evaluate the situation before I get involved. I like to, that's a pragmatic sense of my thinking mechanism, thinking ahead. Virtual London Marathon is happening on the same day as a main event, so there'll all be a buzz and excitement in the lead up to and on the day itself. Participants will have from 12 to 11:59 seconds on the day to complete the 20.6.2 miles on the course of their choice, making it really inclusive and a great option for those people who have always wanted to take part in this iconic race, but were concerned about finishing in their allotted time. The route will be tracked on London Marathon's officials app, and the finishers will receive their running numbers before the event and converted official finisher medal and the New Balance finisher t-shirt post-event. The registration fee for the TBIF virtual place is £20, and we ask that you raise £200 to support the Big Issue vendors. If you are interested in running the virtual London Marathon for the Big Issue Foundation, you can find out more and sign up here on the Big Issue, www.bigissue.org.uk/London Marathon set for record-breaking year. London Marathon physical event. We still have a handful of charity places available in physical event. So if you are looking for a spot in one of the most iconic running events and feel passionate about ending poverty and exclusion for big issue vendors, then we'd love to hear from you. The registration fee for London Marathon Place is £50, and we ask that you raise £1,900 to support big issue vendors. You can find out more and register for a spot here. Raise £1,900, that's a phenomenal amount of money, absolutely. I mean, if you can raise that for me, I'll be overwhelmed. Thank you very much. Got a place in the ballot. If you were one of the lucky ones to get a place in the ballot, firstly, congratulations. We'd love for you to join our team. There was no registration fee or sponsorship target if you've got your own place. We just ask that you raise what you can, and we'll be there to support you all the way to the finish line. In return for all your hard work, we'll be there to shower you with training tips and fundraising ideas to make your marathon journey as memorable and enjoyable as possible. We'd also send you an official Big Issue Foundation running vest, which you can wear with pride during the training runs and on the big day. As part of the team TBIF, you can run in the knowledge that every mile you complete, you'll be helping to raise vital funds and awareness for big issue vendors like Doria's, and who will be working hard to turn their lives around. I mean, Big Issue might be doing big movement, but also, they come from a homeless background. They're obviously earning a substantial amount to getting this out there. Not blowing, being funny, but I'm pretty sure you'll play. I mean, I like to say I'm not. I mean, I'm in debt, but I'm not homeless. I'm not absolutely struggling, but I know there's homeless people. I've got bills up to me. There's homeless people who are suffering alcoholism and narcotics that need some mental stability support. And maybe we could raise money for something more, for theoretically, with something that's going to go to a good cause. It could be a good cause, putting a mortgage, could end up being a £2 million mortgage on someone their property. They come from a homeless background, but they're out there, they're earning money. They're asking to raise £1,900 to support big issue vendors. I'm not going to take it away from them, but I'm just surmising they've got a business going. They're obviously earning good money already. Not amazing, but I know if they stand outside Westminster, they could earn anything up to possibly like £200-300 a day. On a busy day, because a lot of people are a big issue and jump onto the London Underground and walk into the Parliament. I went to Parliament. I said, yeah, I have a big issue. He goes, yeah, £2.50. I was like, newspaper, £2.50? Can't be that good. I got it, looked in it, it's just, yeah. I didn't read it because I was too interested in what was going in Parliament at the time. But anyway, moving, selling a big issue, but asking for £1,900 donation before you run that you're taking part running in London Marathon. It's a lot of miles, put a lot of strain on your body, but then you put it to support a better foundation with people who are actually coming in from all different. What can Charles Darwin tell us about COVID? I mean, when I say Charles Darwin, you think about the old £5 note. Ed, that are you for Charles Darwin? Charles Darwin is what I call a fiver. It's a Cockney was saying. It's a Cockney for saying, I'm not a new host there, Colin. I'd like to become a new host on the Up Live TV. My stance is politics, a bit of singing, artwork, and I like to try and play the violin. It's my new addition to the Proclamation News and Governance. I'm on YouTube, Castbox. I'm very big, quite viral on Facebook and that. If I become a host and you can point me in the right direction, I'll be absolutely thankful. I was on Big O TV before, but I'd love to give this a stance and give it a good go. Darwin Day 2021 comes at a time when we are relying on scientific innovation to rescue us from a global pandemic, but we're also facing conspiracy theories and anti-vaxxers. February the 12th is the birthday of Charles Darwin, one of the greatest and most influential thinkers who ever lived, and one of Britain's greatest scientists. To celebrate his life and legacy, an international connotation campaign for the day to be public holidays, and Humanist UK does its bit by hosting a National Day lecture every year. The obvious way in which the life of example of Charles Darwin calls out to us today is in relation to science, by establishing evolution by natural selection as a central explanatory principle. Darwin demonstrated that through independent thought, biological study, and gathering of evidence, the enterprise of science could alter not just how we view the world, but how we view ourselves. You can sit in there like observing the world, living off our national resources, looking at people becoming fascist between different ethnicities, but not realising our resources are getting shipped left, right, and centre. I mean, India, we have rice imported into all over the world because India is massive for the grain of rice. Clothes as well. China is massive for clothes, technology. It's absolutely phenomenal. You got a place like Ethiopia, Vietnam, the coffee bean, and then people going to war with going to war in the army and then coming back off war, talking about it in the local pubs. Oh yes, we sniped loads of people. Been to Vietnamese soldiers. They probably went on exercise and fired a pellet gun or a pea shooter or something. They're thinking it's funny that they're talking about we went to Vietnam. Yeah, I've got some shrapnel in the leg. I think, oh, please behave. Don't talk about business. I used to be a boxer. I didn't sit down in a pub and go, yeah, give mate the old corporal down the army barracks a good right hand. You don't talk about what happened. They like say, don't talk about what happened. What happens at war stays at war. You leave it there. You don't, become a big person talking about stupid actions that you've done. Darwin, through scientific investigation of the evidence and the imaginative construction of theories to test against evidence, solved a problem that had seemed intractable. In this legacy which Darwin Day celebrates in 2021, among the upheaval caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, we are all newly aware of the importance of science to our everyday lives. In the past, humanity was the most often in blind panic in the face of epidemics, which burned through communities without mercy. Today, unimaginable human in unity in the organised enterprise of medical science has been expended to contain the virus, save lives. And pressure and civilization, we have minimized transmission of the virus by understanding how it passed on, and in little over a year since the first case of COVID-19 was identified in the UK. Science has provided us with 3 approved vaccines. More than 12 million people have now been vaccinated in this country alone. With the eyes of the whole world upon them, scientists have not only had to work at unprecedented speed, they've had to communicate their work like never before. There has been a major shift in how the public views the value of science and demand for scientific knowledge never seen before. In an age of conspiracy, the mongers and the anti-vax, public trust in science is vital. Communicating the key principles of science, the gathering of data, critical thinking, and the importance of changing your ideas when new evidence is presented is the only way defeating missing information. But Darwin's work and legacy as another lesson for us in the pandemic, a moral lesson. Darwin discovers of evolution by natural selection radically reshaped our view of humanity, displacing us from the divinely mandated central position human beings held in the pre-modern imagination, and connecting us to a much larger family of other animals and plants, all connected on tree of life. This is the morality of some people in humanities. You get people, some humans, a little bit docile, a little bit dense. They'll go, the critics, they'll go, they're seeing the thing, they're using animals to use science that maybe let's say they're using perfume, use perfume, or they're using bold or Daz washing powder, checking it out on animals to see if it's human friendly. People can go, oh, it's animal cruelty, but then in the next breath they're eating chicken and beef burger. You're like, come on, where's your common sense? Why are you trying to be a critic, but then you're eating animals anyway? So people really need to think when they try and get involved with science. They know nothing about science. But it's also connected us with each other. This moral lesson is that we're all related in one big human family, not a collection of separately created tribes and nations, and that we need to care for each other and extended our moral sympathies to include every human being, like the lesson of science. The moral lesson also enhanced resonance today. I mean, when it comes to some science, talk about human biology, talk about nutrition, that is one form of theoretically, we shouldn't know any other science, because if you don't know how your own body, the human function, body works in human biology, then why should you need to know anything else about science? You're learning about carbon monoxide, all these different molecules and substances you can make by mixing different chemicals, but you don't know about human mind. That's improper. That's very improper. I don't know if that's anyone else. Call that fatality. Is that anyone else's fatality that you know science but not human biology? I'll be very, very surprised. It is not just the enterprise of science, but the enterprise of human kindness and the concern for others that has been needed in this pandemic. Concern for others as we've shown through our own behaviour to protect them. And the great principle of human solidarity represented by the NHS, which treats and cares for every person. With science motivated by human kindness, we can tackle the biggest challenges facing humanity beyond the pandemic, whether it be climate change or poverty and disease. Darwin Day can give us pause every year to reflect on the fact and comment ourselves that to enterprise. Darwin Day Lecture 2021 is titled Morality Explained, New Science on the Right and Wrong. It will begin online by Dr. Oliver Scott Curry. There you go, Darwin Day, ladies and gents, the Darwin Day. Let's talk about the Grenfell cladding again. The public pay for government's mistakes. The new government fund to move flammable cladding still puts too much responsibility on leaseholders to pay for a problem they had no hand in creating, says John Elledge. That place is, trying to take that cladding down. You really got to be suited and booted, because the ashes, the carbon monoxide, still be left in the old ashes. I'm surmising, because when you touch old ash, it's still in the materials that's been burnt, the wood frame, the window frames, everything you can touch. You have to be, properly covered up. Like the asbestos mask and all that. I reckon you have to go in like that, and because the dust that you can breathe in, the hair molecules that get on your chest could take your life. If you're a government minister, one phrase you don't want to see popping up in your press coverage too often is pressure is growing. That doesn't mean there are people who oppose you. I mean, aren't there always? It means the media have collectively decided that's enough of them oppose you to make the U-turn probable, and thus you'll keep banging on about until it happens. I mean, it's a massive building on a house fire. It burnt down. You could probably just get a bulldozer and knock it down. This instance is probably like almost a skyscraper building. I'm not quite sure how the Grenfell Tower is bound to be like a skyscraper, so they can't knock it down by a wrecking ball. To a certain phase, they probably can when they get down to a certain degree, but they've got to take it down bit by bit safely. How do you take a tower down that safely? Because ash will cover a bit like big black smog again in the city. So they've got to take it down very, very gently. There's a lot of planning going into a big, massive building like that to take it down very, very slowly. 80 lives. The fire took out 80 lives. Housing Secretary Robert Jenrick. I mean, more lives could be taken by taking this building down because it's very, very a lot of planning goes into this. I might say a lot. It can take months and days. It could take years for the planning procedures. How they're going to take it down bit by bit. And then all that molecules get spreading in the city. Babies, newborn babies, mothers could be breathing that. Vulnerable people with bad heart condition or lung condition could be breathing in the ashes. That's why a lot of people don't think, oh, it won't just get a wrecking ball, stick it straight for the building. It's not as easy. Maybe if they get it halfway down, 3/4 of the way down, they could start knocking it down. I don't know the safety measures on that, but I do know there's safety measures on taking buildings down. If it's like on my place, 2-story, bottom floor and a first floor, it can get knocked down. If I drive a dumper for the building, it'll be down in 1 hit, and the dust won't be much dust because you've got to turn all the electrics off all the way through the building. The electrics are obviously off anyway because there has been things, but the water, the gas, all been taken off. It's got to come off when it burnt down. Home Secretary Robert Jenrick, never a man blessed with great press, it must be said, has been seeing that phrase rather a lot of late. His plan to fund the removal of the flammable cladding undercovered in the wake of the Grenfell fire has left millions of leaseholders facing massive costs to remove it. As a result, pressure is growing to see it happen again, for him to change course. Those providing that pressure includes a selection of Tory backbenchers, the Daily Mail, Jeremy Clarkson and Kevin McLeod of Grand Designs. None of them the sort of people a Tory minister generally wants to make of enemy. Imagine how much that's going to fund. I mean, the people going to work are going to want red alert money because they're putting their life at risk going into work. They're going to be working uncomfortably. They've got to put masks on. They've got to put white aprons on that they wear for asbestos. They've got to be fully suited and booted with health and safety measures. Absolutely. Any of that gets contaminated in their skin. Or, imagine going to eat your lunch and got all that dirt. Obviously, you have gloves, special gloves on. Not like normal work gloves. They have gloves that cover up to their elbows almost. Anyway, the reason for all this government obvious reluctance to protect leaseholders and the life-wrecking cost of its own mistakes. The £3.6 billion fund Jenrick announced last week covers fire safety measures in buildings over 18 metres or 6 stories high in England. This is bound to be much bigger. It will be funded in part of the levy of developers, although inevitably detailed TBC. That sounds like a lot of money, especially when added to the £1.6 billion building safety fund already allotted. But it's a long way short of £15 billion Commons Committee recommended last year. It isn't enough. I did quite surmise that, to be honest. That's just to take it down, then they've got to build something back in place of it. If you notice, it excludes those other buildings which are under 18 metres, 6 stories high, which account for more than half of those that require remediation, as well as any other building affecting Scotland, Wales or Northern Ireland. The arguments for this are basically that you're vastly less likely to die in a fire in a low-rise building. That developed governments should be stumping out their own share of costs, respectively. I mean, that's just to get the building down. The amount of money that people want to work in there, probably, good money, but it's not good money that you're taking a risk of your life, taking a risk of losing your own life to your loved ones. When being less likely to die in a fire makes you more able to pay large bill is not exactly clear. Last autumn, the House of Lords passed an amendment proposed by Liberal Democrat Baroness Pinnock, which only had made it legal from developers or investors who are building to pass costs down to leaseholders who actually own the flats inside them. The government has so far failed to support this amendment. However, Jenrick has instead proposed a system of long-term low-interest loans in which freeholders could pay off their cladding debts by up to £50 a month and at a rate. This will take literally decades. The debts would be sold with the flats, almost certainly reducing property values. I just want to say something. The dangerous things I've done over years, looking at jobs like this. I've had a 20-ton excavator. These are the sort of jobs I could have been doing next. I used to go out dredging old, where you go to a tip where you know, like where you get all your rubbish taken to by the big dustbin lorries in I think it's Great Dunmow, the waste tip. All these lorries, all them the waste lorries used to go and wash their vehicles out in this cesspit. And this cesspit could have been about, I don't know, I probably got about 50 meters deep with the excavator just keep digging out and out, going in and in. The site agent on the job, he said, "Can you go around the side, work your way in from that side?" I thought that's a bit too steep, I've got the bucket stuck in the slop at the bottom of where they used to dredge their vehicles that wash all their, I don't know, could have been like 60 Arctic lorries going in there, washing their lorries down in this thing, cesspit. And it was just, my bucket was getting suctioned in and in, and my machine was going closer and closer to the edge. My bucket finally, I wish I knew, was going to get stuck. Site agent then goes, "Oh, you can get out easy." I said, "Go on then, you get out, because if that digger goes in there, I'm in I'm in dredge streak." So with that, he got in there, boom, started trying to get the machine back, get the arm back in because he got it stuck. He goes, "Oh, you get it out, just and the site agent literally wet himself because he knew he got the bucket stuck that much. If he kept putting it in, the machine was going. And the bucket stuck. I had a little wiggle of it. I thought, no, that ain't coming in. Any more pressure goes on that arm, the rest of 20-ton machine. You can imagine the size of the machine, probably about the same size, almost the same size as my house I'm sitting in now. It's probably about 70,000 pounds worth of machinery. Went into the cesspit, and that was down to the site agent. And obviously, I rang my business manager of my company. Said, site agent's got the machine, right into the middle of the dredging thing. It took two lorries with winches, two big dumpers as well. They're 4x4, them diesel dumpers, the big dumpers, the tipping truck dumpers as well. They're not on tracks. Took two big lorries. I'm talking big, strong lorries, pulling the machine out of the thing. I'll tell you what a mess. What it took absolutely, I think it took about 3 days to pull it out of that. It sucked in that mud that much. It was absolutely shocking. So if I was stuck in that machine, I didn't have my seatbelt on. If I had my seatbelt on, I could jump out. I would have been absolutely, I'd been dead in the bottom of that, in that dredging thing. It's absolutely shocking, absorbing information. I've done underpinning. Underpinning is very, very dangerous. Going underneath, 3 meters underneath the house, the sides ain't shored up properly. Or even if you've got two sides shored up, you've got the back and the front that could fall in on you at any given moment, and the rest of the building coming on top of your head. I've done many, many dangerous jobs, same as these. Any demolition job is very, very Anyway, why being less likely to die in a fire makes you more able to pay a large bill is not exactly clear. Last autumn, the House of Lords passed an amendment proposed by the Liberal Democrat Baroness Pinnock, which would have made it illegal for developers or investors who have owned building thresholds to pass costs down to leaseholders who actually own the flats inside them. The government has failed to support this amendment. However, Jenrick has instead proposed a system of long-term low-interest loans, of which thresholders could pay off the cladding debts by up to £50 a month. At the rate, this will take literally decades. The debts would be sold with flat rates, almost certainly reducing property values. In his announcement of the new fund, Jenrick spoke of the need to find the right balance between leaseholders and taxpayers will fund the scheme. In other words, he clearly believes that leaseholders should be on the hook for the money. You bought it, it's your problem. I mean, don't forget, we've got the March elections coming up, March the 6th elections, ladies and gents. You can post your vote online at mayelection2021.org.uk online. Robert Jenrick has announced the biggest ever investment in building safety, with the government paying for the removal of all unsafe cladding on high-rise residential buildings. But according to a recent survey conducted by Inside Housing magazine, The majority of leaseholders affected by the cladding scandal are young and live in households where incomes are under £50,000. The same survey found the government's claim that the average bill they were facing was £9,000, an already pretty painful number. To be a gross underestimate, nearly 90% of them are facing bills of up to £10,000, a third are over £50,000. Many are already exploring the possibility of bankruptcy. These are not rich people who gambled and lost. They are fairly average households that bought homes in good faith, only to find that they were fire traps because developers had cut corners in the name of profit. And because of government failure to properly regulate the sector, why should they face life-running bills to live in homes they can't sell, simply because Jenrick's predecessors failed to do their jobs? The same Inside Housing survey, incidentally, found that nearly 40% of the affected leaseholders voted Tory. Unless Jenrick changes direction, it seems probable that many of them will not be doing so again. The natural desire for justice is one reason why pressure rate is growing. The literal consequences of not providing it is almost certainly another. I just want to, give you an update. I'm going to try and do a bit of an art gallery live as well. I don't know how that's going to go down because I'm so delved in my politics. I'm trying to keep everything separate. My singing, I like a bit of singing, I like a bit of artwork. I don't claim to be a professional singer. Just above mediocre, I'd say, because I don't see many others participating. A lot of people become critics, judgmental of my abilitations, but let me tell you, there's not many people have got the audacity to become a critic and pick up a microphone and tell me otherwise. They can all sit there and say, "Oh, that's not good," or live singing. If you actually been to the live singing event, even the best edited songs that you hear on the radio now, then listen to them live on a concert, you think, "Oh my goodness, Professor Johnson sounds just as gimmickal." And not only that, I'm not going to sound like, I like Frank Sinatra. I'm not going to sound absolute gimmick to Frank Sinatra because I'm Justin Johnson. Frank Sinatra or Ed Sheeran because they got their own style. They got their own voice. Anyway, how many empty homes are there in the UK? Campaigners are calling for government's action on rising numbers of long-term empty properties across the country. Everyone's allowed their own opinion, but when you got your opinion, you got to come back with hard evidence that you can back your critics up, because if you put me down, you can't sing yourself. Don't give it up. I'm on the hot list right now. Thank you ever so much. Thank you ever so much for the update. I'm really happy about that. If you can help me get support, ladies and gents, and to follow my live, I'm going to be live most days. Campaigners are calling for government action on rising numbers of long-term empty properties across the country as part of Empty Homes Week. Spearhead by Action of Empty Homes, a charity that raises awareness about the waste of unused properties, campaigners hope to pressure ministers to work with local councils and to tackle the issue. It says hundreds and thousands of homes sitting empty on Britain's streets could be proposed and used to house the vulnerable. More than 120 local authorities are taking part and hope to receive more powers from central government to house people who need help. But it isn't simple, that there are many things to take into account. Here's what you need to know. Lockdowns have taken income away from hundreds of big issue sellers. Support the big issue and vendors by signing and subscription. How many empty homes are in the UK? According to the most recent government figures released in November 2020, 268,385 homes in England have been empty for at least 6 months. These are what action on empty homes refers to in long-term empty properties. The figures represented a 9% increase in abandoned properties, with additional 42,600 added since 2019. While the rise could be down to COVID lockdowns, the number has increased for years in a row. You would think, even if they took a risk of not getting a full payment, if the property's not rented out for that long, you might as well take some form of payment for these empty properties if they're council owned or even private owned, because you're not earning, they're just sitting there. They're sitting derelict, aren't they, at the moment? There will be different types of empty homes in the 42,000 surge we saw this year. Explained by Chris Bailey, campaign manager and action on empty homes. Some of them will be Airbnbs, where the market has been shattered by travel bans and COVID. Some of them will be city flats people couldn't really afford to live in, but they had to for their work and have now abandoned them. They'll be unsold, new builds as well. While some of the increase will be related to COVID, and it's not all about that, we've been going up since year after the last National Empty House Programme funding was stopped by the government in 2015. Why do empty homes matter? Charity warns housing waiting lists are growing. Will increase numbers who have nowhere else to be put up in council provided temporary accommodation. According to the local government association, 240 children were living in temporary accommodation during England's third national lockdown, including 1,440 households with children in bed and breakfast around the country. Action on empty homes aims not only to raise awareness but also to urge government to bring long-term empty properties back into use in need. I just want to say thank you for coming through. I'm part of the aristocracy social elite. I am the prodigious, the prominent Professor Johnson. We've come in with pragmatic and very good adequate sense. I analyse, I emphasise, I look at the similarities and difference of different contexts and scripture. I want you guys to acknowledge my credibilities, the way I project a good performance. Thank you ever so much for coming through and supporting the show. The Mark National Empty Homes, our housing standards teams, are hosting a free support event for landlords and residents of empty homes on Wednesday, the 17th of February. To contact of Housing Standards Team on 0151 691 8132 or email emptyproperties@rival.gov.uk. If anyone knows how I can become a broadcaster on this up live, please give me the verdict how I do it and then give me an inbox, because I was on Big O TV and I made a substantial amount of difference because I'm on daily. I do a bit of singing, I do artwork, I emphasise a lot of things. I put my fingers in a lot of cakes and I mix them. Bailey said government action could be very important for struggling households because the vast majority of empty properties were 3 or 4 bedroom family homes. These are the sort of homes that could be affordable, whether rented or purchased, by the kind of people who are most in housing need, he added. How can we bring empty properties back into use? It's not quite as simple as repossessing an empty homes and giving them to families in need, though many are old, in need of investment and aren't currently ready to be lived in. Bailey said most long-term empty properties were Victorian and Edwardian terraced homes that are difficult to insulate. But he added, that doesn't necessarily mean knocking them down is the best course of action. He said retro would be more efficient and help the government's environmental credentials as it hosts the COP26 Climate Conference of Global Climate Leaders. Project of the day. This property in Swale was empty for just over a year and had suffered from a water leak, causing mould to spread across the property. Now en route to being finished with water damage repaired. Support by the NUE. Empty Homes Week 2021. In Kent, empty homes. You have the worst housing in Europe in terms of loss of heat and loss of energy, he added. It's a P26. Going forward to combat climate change, they really need to think about our housing stock. The answer in many cases is to retrofit, because that is a much more efficient thing to do. When can government do about unused homes? Action on Empty Homes is calling on the government launch to a national empty home strategy. by saying 200 million is needed to support local authorities to bring term unused housing in England back to use. The government scheme was set up 2012 to provide 100 million for refurbishment, but it ended in 2015. LAG is also calling for government to give councils more power to acquire homes, including making it easier to be used by unused properties and move households out from temporary accommodation. Empty homes can damage communities by becoming derelict, overgrown, or by attracting anti-social behaviour. If you think a property near you has been left empty long term, let us know by registering an online website orlo.uk /S8OUY. Not all empty homes are in need of refurbishment, though many would benefit from the type of government-backed investment programme we saw working well. It was scrapped in 2015. Added action on empty homes director Will McCann. That's why we call for a new programme of government investment and why we back local councils, calls for better and simpler powers to act where new owners and landlords won't or can't. We also back calls from local government associations for the government to offer councils improved powers to acquire empty homes and put them into use to help them with a sharp end of the national housing crisis, which sees 127,240 children and their families trapped in insecure, substandard, and often a crowded temporary accommodation during our current national lockdown. Thank you ever so much for subscribing to Proclamation News and Gatherance Reza. If you could please share my cast with your friends, I really, really appreciate it coming through. We've got so many loyal supporters supporting the show. We're coming on to something in the news when I'm back after a short break. We have about a 15-minute break. Gents, we're going to have a long show to get through, and we've still got about another 6 segments to get through. We've done 7 segments, we've got another 6 to get through. We've got no business like show business. Someone I haven't heard about for a long time. Someone, when she did come out, was absolutely phenomenal. She was everyone's heartthrob teenager. Britney Spears. It's not heard about lately, and she's in the next headlines. She got pulled down in tatters with the Justin Timberlake episode. She cut her hair off. Everything was very volatile in the media about it. It wasn't nice. She's suffering mental health, and they get thrown all over the media. People suffer mental health. The last thing you want to do is get thrown over the media. It's because there's chemical imbalance, and then someone wants to write them off. I've had a chemical imbalance with my ex-partner. So she, and I don't try not to sit there and air my dirty laundry and write her off, because she still deserves to be a human being. I've had moments, but I'm pretty sure she's had a lot more moments than I have. But I don't know. But anyway, we're not going to paint pictures of people, because everyone is beautiful, and we're just going to enjoy the cast, enjoy life, and try not to put others down in the process. Thank you. God bless. And we're going to have a break. We're not going anywhere. Don't forget. Not going anywhere. This is absolutely phenomenal. Sharing the love across the globe with everyone, with families, trying to give treat people in a better light of the world.
This is absolutely essential.
Admitted to hospital. Prince Philip admitted to hospital.
Money doesn't grow on trees. It grows with Amazon. Join today with a small investment of $250.
Hospital.
Start investing now.
This is Prince Philip, 99, admitted to hospital. Oh my goodness. Gonna leave this on breaking. I mean, well, we'll find out what's going on with Prince Philip. 99, he's been admitted to hospital after feeling unwell. My heart and condolences go out to the family. I really hope it pulls through. I mean, what an age ain't nothing too serious. The Royal family of very very close to my heart. My family of all cousin Jonathan, my grandfather was all Grenadier Guards. I know to some different ethnicities, the Queen might not be a big part of your life, perhaps, but I know you do respect our law. You come here, you live here, you respect our law. It might not be a big part of your life because you got your own king or queen back home, and you respect that law, you respect their authority, which is amazing. But I'm just, paying my heart, my respect to Prince Philip. We have a short break. I want to see what's going on, see how serious it is. We're going to find out in the headlines in the next day or so, but this is something urgent that needs paying attention to in the media. And if I like media studies, this is what we're going to sit still and take part, participate in, evaluate the situation. It's what, giving everyone the news. I mean, it's all over the news. We all support the royal family, Queen's Guard, soldiers of all different people in our country. We've had Islam in our country for years, World War One, World War Two. So, everyone's part of the Queen's life, some pair with respect to our whole dominion is what I'm saying. So I'm saying thank you, and if you can just pay a bit of respect, support the show, share, we can find out what's going on, and send our love and our condolence. Just share it with one another. Just paying our respect, which is the main priority as we listen in. Just going for a short break, guys. Thank you. God bless.
here now. I know the feeling, mate. Trust me, I can see it on your face. I know the feeling.
Oh, that's annoying.
I'll stand in it. No, I'm yeah, go on then. But hurry up and stand in it. All right, bye. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just quick. Home is coming to pass. Yeah. Well, he'll get here in a minute. I don't think.
Everyone's just sitting outside the. We've got journalists, news reporters, everything. Yeah, journalists are news reporters. We know we've got cameramen all outside the hospital after Prince Philip has fallen ill. Everyone's trying to find out to make sure he's all right, rather than be there to be criticising the royal family being ill for whatever reason. They're being there supportive, trying to give everyone indication what is going on. Everyone's heart and condolences, such as these reporters are there supporting the family, hoping everything's all right. All we can do is give our condolences and best wishes for the family and hope no tragic happens to the family. 99 years of age. Let's hope he's well. Let's hope he pulls through and all family live happily ever after. I support the royal family, Prince Philip.
Yeah, just outside the hospital. No, I've got a minute.
Anyone listening, do enjoy the content, please don't mind spending it.
Oh, yeah.
Live and air.
Off the top of my head, I can't think. Can I look my roster and send you an email? On the hill.
Yeah, must be that.
Well, I've got some cones for a minute. Yeah, cool. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine.
What's going on there, ladies and gents? We've done, there's cars going outside the hospital of the exterior of Prince Philip, 99, aged 99, admitted to hospital after feeling unwell. That's the monarch of England, Queen Elizabeth's husband, Prince Philip. You know, all we can do is sit and wait for the amid results regarding Prince Philip. There's hope for a recovery. Yes, a great, relaxing room to come to. It's all about journalism, updating the journalism worldwide and mainly for the UK, but it's also giving you an insight to what it's like in the UK if our politics is similar or better off at a standstill to what yours is. Everyone's got different ways they they come through their union of their country through safety values and inequalities throughout the world. Anyway, you can sort of emphasise our standstill to yours, really. See how you can evaluate our situation to yours. It's great. Anyway, if you're in the United Kingdom, could well be Queen Bee. I don't know if you're Queen Bee from Big O TV, but welcome. It's proclamation news and gatherance with the prodigious, the prominent Professor Johnson, coming with pragmatic and very adequate sense. I'm a great analyst. I evaluate. I look at the similarities and difference between different other political analysts. Also, I look at journalism, criminology. Anything stands still as a crime. I'm not a person to be a massive reporter against it, but I will. If it's a sociological difference in a society, I will put my implementations there. I'm not here to be pointing fingers at people, but if it's harm to my family or children and my friends, then so be it. I will point that out. A proclamation news and Gavin's is sponsored by O2 providers. O2 network, best O2, it's best network in the UK. Got the best signal, best broadband, best deals on devices. You get O2 priorities as well. You don't just get a handset, you get priorities. Winning trips away for two. Trips away for families. She gets lots of priorities with O2 providers. You know, the devices are absolutely phenomenal. You get 5G, 4G bundles they're doing at the moment are absolutely phenomenal. You want a prodigious phone, you want a prodigious network, look no further. Very adequate. The GRU services online are absolutely phenomenal. I can't grumble. I've been with Free. I've been with T-Mobile. You know, I'm not sure about. I think they've got Tesco's service. I'm not sure about Tesco's. Early days for them. I don't know. I haven't. So I've heard some people, and I think Mum and Dad may be on Tesco's. I'm not sure, but I've heard. Well, all I know is participating with most of them, apart from Tesco's and O2 providers, is the best. We're also sponsored by PSS CCTV security system alarms and sensors of any kind of criminal activity outside your business. Make sure your business is secure and safe, or school, or residential home, or any business, industrialisation. Anything you're thinking about going into some sort of globalisation market, if it's paintings or you got a little storage unit, or in your house, you need CCTV put up, make sure your place is safe and secure. And if you've got anything that's like, you know, history handed down for your family, World War II stuff, anything, any old magazines, just make sure your house is safe and secure. Have CCTV put up. I've worked alongside a friend going out pricing up jobs, likes of Harry Kane's family, and you know many other big, you know, businesses, all kinds of facilitating the sports as well. Maybe you're gonna hold an event. You want to, you know, rather than you want people counting, and you also want to lower the count of criminology, see who's coming in and out. Proudly sponsored by PSS Alarms. Very adequate and pragmatic works carried out. I just want to let everyone know there's over 800 watchers, listeners coming in at the moment. I've got 784 watchers on Up Live TV now. And I've got 19 listeners on Castbox. Possibly got 1 or 2 listeners on YouTube, but without looking, I don't know. Add all areas covered, including central station monitoring provided. All work done according to insurance requirements. This is a friend of mine's company. He's carried out works with Harry Kane's stepmother house in Hertfordshire, Potter's Bar. He carries out etiquette works in Essex, all throughout the UK. Obviously, you have to pay probably for travel expenses if you're further afield, and maybe possibly overnight stay. If you've got a hotel, you can put them up and, you know, look after them in a professional etiquette mannerism. If you want etiquette business, you should watch Sadiq Khan, Mayor of London. This is why it's such an etiquette business to get involved in. You know, the Khan family, Amir Khan, they're all etiquette people doing professional job by the day, and this is his job that puts butters his bread. This is his bread and butter. So support an etiquette industry in a methodical manner, such as the aristocracy, social elite, you know, polite mannerism, sophisticated people we're talking about here, such as Casbah Restaurant and many more big businesses. Please contact or call Tariq Khan. His contact details are 07908. It's an English code. If you're in England but you got an Indian or you got a Turkish phone, it's +44 the English code, +44, which is 07 in England. +44 is the English code. +44 7908 +44 +44 7908 7908 is the first 4 digits. 2 1 6 1 4 2 +4 7 9 0 8 2 1 6 1 4 2. Please ask for Tarek Khan, and it insists you with further implementations of price. You can also tell him where you are, what you acquire for your business purposes and your safety, which is paramount, which side, especially well equipped. He uses through. He's known through police security because he's that graded with his job. Very professional works carried out. Cable ties, very, very tidy. Or you can call me on +44 7511 953. So +44 7511 953 104. Installation and maintenance on intruder alarms, fire alarms, CCTV. All works guaranteed and certified to SSAIB standards. 24-hour call-out service. Can provide CCTV for pubs, clubs, restaurants, or new business setups. Secure your business. Even you've got offices. Mention Professor Johnson for extra discount. Call in all security, safety, which is paramount of all your occupants inside your building. All the occupants inside your business. If it's a computer office, anything, industrialisation, call that number. Ask for Tarek Khan. You can email me at proclamationnewsandgatherance@yahoo.com. Proclamation Johnson on Facebook. Proclamation News and Gatherance on YouTube and Castbox. Will Framing Britney Spears be a moment of reckoning for celebrity media? It's what we was going to a minute ago. Everybody talking of this stuff about me. Why don't they just let me live? So sang Britney Spears on her 2004 single, My Prerogative. More than 15 years ago in the week, that new documentary, Framing Britney. Those words are echoing once again. The New York Times films turns a spotlight on the singer's treatment by the press by a public breakdown in 2007 and the ongoing dispute over her conservatorship and agreement. That means she doesn't control many aspects of her life and career. Mike Evans, hello there, buddy. I'm not in any family, but I'd like to join a family and become part of a established broadcasting sponsorship on this Up Live TV. Because I'm on it and I'm getting nearly 1,000 listeners in one setting in a day. So it'd be phenomenal to join part of a team. Build a bigger, better establishment for Proclamation News and Gatherance. The New York Times films turned spotlight on Singh's treatment by the press public breakdown in 2007. The documentary has led to renewed criticism about her treatment within the bubble of the 2000 celebrities culture and has sparked some soul searching in the media. Sometimes a breakdown, it's all well and good for all the media to try and bring her down to a boil, you know, where she almost wants to commit suicide. It's horrific. We are all to blame for what happened to Britney Spears. Read an apology from the Glamour magazine to the pop star on Instagram on Tuesday. Britney Spears, you know, even when she was going for a bad time, what a beautiful lady she was. Why would everyone want to bring someone so glamorous down to a halt where she has a breakdown? I mean, what's the big thing about pulling people apart? I really don't know. Some people can't handle fame, you know. It's all well and good, you know. I've written some songs. They're quite phenomenal. I've had like 3,000 listeners on one of my songs. That's quite, you know. I don't I don't plan to be a music star. But with a song, it's quite phenomenal. It could, if I got it promoted out there, I could have been in the mainstream media. Could have been like festivals and whatnot, whatever else. Because it's quite listen to the words. It's quite very well written. The studio I was in, this is homemade, so it wasn't phenomenal. But it could have well been with a bit of edit, like a lot of songs are, a lot of singers do. And I've been around singers, mediocre, professional. You're a professional singer if you've been in the business for over 3 years anyway, because you're practicing singing regardless of how professional your voice sounds without the studio. You're a professional singer because professional singers sing live and they're not that phenomenal anyway. So let's be serious in an etiquette sense. Anyway, blogger Perez Hilton has similarly said he is so sorry for how he behaved. Speaking on the podcast this week, he said, "My words and actions were wrong. I was nasty, mean, cruel and inconsiderate, awful, and I've apologised to Britney, not just publicly but privately. Amid this reckoning, Spears' treatment at the hands of entertainment media machine feels outdated in today's climate. But has the celebrity experience really changed? Laboratory experiment. It's hardly unusual for celebrities to face intrusion and loss of privacy at the height of their fame. I mean, you lose privacy when you start getting famous. I was getting my name out there in boxing. I was travelling all over. When I was able, I was travelling all over UK, getting my name out there. And it's not great to be in the media all the time because people go, there he is. People will throw daggers at you all the time. As soon as you make one silly slip or mistake, you're hounded at by the critics. I mean, that was a great participation that I got involved in something such along the lines. Even with football, I was having trials with Arsenal, Colchester, Ipswich, Leyton Orient. But just being that almost that limelight, you sort of get an insight what your life could entail, and something you don't really want is the publicity at your door every day. I mean, even football, I was in the paper nearly every weekend. Every weekend, I was in the paper. However, for Britney, as a young woman who had carried a manufactured girl next door image of sexualised innocence since her teens, the glare of the spotlight felt especially intense. I mean, it's one thing being a hero in the paper in sport, and something else being something totally guided by sin, almost like Reggie Cray or one of the mafia twins or something in the newspaper. It's horrific. Always being shown in the paper. We can see Britney in line of women artists from Marilyn Monroe to Whitney Houston and Winehouse, who has been judged not so much for the work they produce, but for the way in which they have been represented by the press, says Lucia Robinson, culture historian at the University of Sussex. Nowhere was this clearer than during Britney's 2003 television interview with the US journalist Diana Sawyer. I mean, you always see when they do like the worst criminals in their constituency, Essex. One of my friends was one of them. He's probably the most softest bloke. He couldn't harm a fly. And he is in the top 10 most dangerous people in Essex. He's not even strong enough to, I don't think he's even, I know it sounds wrong, but he's not even strong enough to probably break a 6-year-old's neck, I wouldn't have thought. He's not got no venom in him. And he's in the top 10 most dangerous people in Essex. The press and police can make bad assumptions of people and totally write them off in the media. It's a shock. Nowhere was this clearer than during Britney's 2003 television interview with US journalist Diane Sawyer. I mean, in Essex, I don't know, it's 200,000 people perhaps. I don't know how many people it is in Tendring. Why would you pick, out of all them people, the top 10 being one of the most placid people in all of Essex, just because he's got done for a few criminal charges? Maybe they've done it for a wake-up call, but to make that assumption when there's like paedophiles, rapists, and whatever else in everyone's constituency, but the most softest bloke, he's got a few. He went to prison for a few. Probably he's wrapped around the wrong people. He needed mental support rather than bring someone down horrifically in the paper and press. Is quite a shock. It happens more so than often. She's like a laboratory experiment in insulating power, relentless fame, The broadcaster told viewers, remember, no high school or college life to practicing dating, no anonymity for the trial and error and embarrassing choices. Despite the apparent understanding, the tone of her questioning, which was persistent at the accusatory in its focus on Britney's relationship and sex life, left the 21-year-old in tears. At one point, Sawyer suggested the singer had disappointed a lot of mothers in this country. Double standards interview also pointed to another precious speculation over Britney's personal life. As a clean-cut teen model, she had sworn herself to chastity until marriage, but made headlines when she admitted to breaking his pledge with pop star boyfriend Justin. We all knew about that. When a couple split, Timberlake sparked rumours of Britney's infidelity by including a cheating lookalike in his video for Cry Me a River. I mean, when them two got together, it's almost like a match made in heaven. You see it, didn't you? Like, you see Rihanna and what's his name, Beyonce and Jay-Z. It's, you know, match made in heaven. Both music artists. They've got a massive. Their thing. They're building. You know, relationships should build each other, not break down each other. When you both got the same sort of collateral, you both got the same. You know, the same life plan. You got the same taste in style. Everything's suited, and you go and break it. Why would someone do that? I don't know. Sawyer pointedly questioned her morality on both counts in her interview, leading Britney to become emotional. The obsession with Britney's virginity absolutely highlights the sexual double standard between men and women, but more than highlights how institutional the sexual exploitation and objectification of young girls is at the heart of media and pop industry, says Robinson. This may have well ruined Britney Spears' whole life. The obsession. There is no in a context that for younger women to own their own sexuality or explore it with agency. Instead, they become responsible for adult men sexualizing them in the industry and in the audience. Timberlake spoke freely, taking her virginity in radio interviews as he launched his solo career. After moving on from Britney, he famously appeared to grope Kylie Minogue's bottom on stage at 2013 Brit Awards, earning him a nickname Justin Trouser Snake, and was involved in Janet Jackson's infamous wardrobe malfunction at 2004 Super Bowl. Lack of empathy. Meanwhile, the intense speculation around Britney's private life continued as her marriage to dancer Kevin Federline, the father of two children, collapsed. The very public breakdown followed in 2007, with Britney shaving her head off in full view of the cameras, acting erratically. And her father, Jamie Spears, has been her conservator or legal guardian since 2008 due to concerns about her mental health. I mean, so if someone cuts their hair off, they're a danger to others. I don't think she's a danger to herself cutting her hair off. It's just maybe she's hating herself. It's just trial and error. It doesn't mean she's literally jumping off the edge of the earth to cutting your hair off. Some people, you know, women do drastically dye their hair, change their hair. You know, we see it in people like Miley Cyrus. Doesn't she cut her hair off an ocean for cutting her hair off? Do they actually know, you know, really, do they give her enough close care that she needed Britney Spears rather than jumping straight to conclusion? That's what I'm surmising. You don't know, do you? I don't know. I'm not a psychological person looking over what Britney Spears was sustaining at the time, so I can't emphasise or stress what actually happened. The intense media coverage of the breakdown underscored the real lack of empathy that has shown towards Britney. It says The Guardian deputy TV editor Hannah Davis. A clear dehammatisation took place. His sense of Britney's action was seen as existing in a parallel universe to all of the stresses and pressures of being in the spotlight. The judgment towards the socially acceptable too. Think of all the merch that mocked her breakdown. Greeting cards about mugs about Britney's surviving 2008. It feels so cheap to me looking back. Jen Offord, writer and co-presenter at the Standard Issue podcast, feels society has traditionally been socialised not to believe women or take their health problems seriously. I'm roughly in the same age as Britney, so I don't think it occurred to me until around the time of the shaved head incident that the media was particularly tough on her, she says. It became painfully obvious to me how ill she was, and yet the public discourse around it was relentlessly unkind. Part of the subsequent shift in mindset stems from an increased understanding around mental health and media's role within it, particularly from the death of Love Island presenter Caroline Flack last year. Yes, exactly. So people jumping in the media, jumping on a bandwagon to become a critic, within the media and everything else, putting her down. It's disgusting. It's a shock. Why would you hit a woman? They say hit a man while he's down, but in this case, why'd you hit a woman while she's down? Making them worse. This is what happens. In the aftermath of her suicide, the public were suddenly extremely concerned about kindness of them in the media. But the public consume the very articles she was handed over. They would not be written without our interest in the sometimes very obviously declining mental state of the central subjects. Kindness should not only be retrospective, a new era. So does this mean the treatment of celebrities is softening? Commentator Mick Wright says the positive response to Jessie Nelson's departure from girl group Little Mix last year, citing the need to protect her mental health, suggests the media understands it could no longer be as nakedly brutal. The tabloids know they need to pay lip service to mental health concerns and the right to private life, but they still become obsessed with particularly stars and put them under enormous amount of pressure, he says. But despite increased awareness, Hannah Davis isn't entirely sure the celebrity ecosystem is necessarily kinder, but simply evolving into a new industrial complex between traditional and new media. I think we have much better understanding of mental health now, but even so, which Britney Spears being argued by paparazzi and seeing those headlines isn't something that's unique to the late 2000s. We're still seeing celebrities used as abused by the media, and the advent of reality TV and social has only been made surveillance more constant and increased this conveyor belt of people whom the tabloids can support and then turn on. The BBC Celebrities A 21st Century story showed how the relationship has grown and changed through social media, including Instagram and YouTube. But while the power of these platforms can be destructive, as Nelson Freud discussed prior to her departure, it can also be empowering for celebrities. It's upsetting, isn't it, to see this in the media? Very, very upsetting. Take control. Would it help Britney in the early 2000s? Indirectly, it already has. The legal battle around her conservatorship has been played out against the backdrop of the online Free Britney movement, led by the fans who believe Britney Spears is being controlled against her will. Social media has allowed celebrities to take control of their truth and rebut claims quickly, says the Independent's head of audience, Beth Ashton. When someone instantly challenges a claim and shares it with their millions of followers, it's impossible to ignore. The story changes and the headlines change too. And after the documentary came out, Britney, now 39, took to social media to say the public can now know what life is like for the actual person living behind the lens. Can't believe this performance of Toxic is from 3 years ago. I always loved being on stage, but I'm taking the time to learn about being a normal person. I simply enjoying the basics of everyday life. Each person has a story and their take on people's stories. We all have so many different bright, beautiful lives. Remember, no matter what we think, we know about the person's life is nothing compared to the actual person living behind the lens. Absolutely, Britney Spears, it's phenomenal. She's opening up about that event. I'm just going to go through Hatfield, Welling, Garden City, and Essex Live, ladies and gents. So stay tuned. Last two articles to get through. It's been an absolute phenomenal show. Absolute phenomenal, guys. Have your say on whether you feel public space is protected from antisocial behaviour. Residents and businesses are invited to have their say on whether to retain the public space of education, beautiful place, and I don't want to see kids seeing adults acting like human excrement, drinking alcohol in the town centre, out of a small story that shouldn't have been adults drinking at the time of schools being kicked out in Hatfield. What a beautiful little place it is, but it's not a little place because it's enticed into Hertfordshire, Greater London. Hatfield House is where Queen Elizabeth I was. And I wanted these guys to pay a bit of respect to younger generation coming out of university, colleges, school, primary schools, play schools, everything. It was disgusting just seeing men drinking numerously, in the winter, in the daytime, just sitting there like they're living in a slaughter, swearing their head off in front of kids and mums fathers coming out of school, they let young children. It was disgusting. The PSPO cannot be applied for longer than 3 years without review, and current order in Hatfield was introduced in summer 2018. The aim of the consultation is to understand any concern residents may have about the town centre environment, including the impact of street drinking, begging and rough sleeping, and whether or not a PSPO is the right solution to address these concerns. Although the emphasis is not on outreach and support work to tackle these issues, and a PSPO could provide a useful in some cases, but more serious action is necessary. Councillor Bernard Sarson, Executive Member for Regeneration, Economic Development and Partnership, said, "It's important that everyone can safely enjoy our shared spaces, so we're keen to hear any concerns people may have and their thoughts on how the current PSPO has worked." PSPO is just one part of the work that goes across the borough and in partnership with the local organisation to reduce antisocial behaviour and help residents access relevant support services for their needs. Last year, traders voiced concerns about antisocial behaviour in Hatfield Town Centre. Is a series of the Welling Hatfield Times ran about the problems facing those working in the shopping centre. A shop owner who did not want to be named said constant rubbish and street drinking affects her business. There you go. One of the employees just doesn't feel comfortable with the drinking outside and going past them, she said. "I'm always removing rubbish from the back, beer, bottles and food. They just don't care, and they scratch my car all the time as well." Residents and business can find out more complete and consultation survey online. 1.wellinghatfield.gov.uk/PSPO. I mean, there's one thing going to work, and another thing where people just too binidal to do any work or try and better themselves or their aspirations, and they're going out drinking, becoming an absolute juvenile. There's no need for it. Really is no need for it. Alternatively, consultation documents are available by calling the ASB and community teams on 01707 357706. Consultation is open from Wednesday, February the 10th to Thursday, March the 18th. Why do people have to cause an absolute provocation to anyone to live in? I mean, I'm sitting here, this is what I want to do. I want to one day people go, so what and people actually come by and participate, probably Northlands Park. Sporadic knife crime, it's a big thing in the United Kingdom. Big thing. Got 930 listeners on Up Live TV. Absolutely phenomenal, guys. It's been a great show today, really has. We've come up to the close of the show, and two teenagers have been arrested after a man was stabbed in Basildon, Buster Road near Northlands Park in Pitsea at approximately 3:50 yesterday afternoon, Tuesday, February 16th. After it was reported that a group of men were brandishing weapons near Westmisnter, it found a suffering from stab wound adjacent to the popular park. Paramedics then took him to hospital, and soon after, two teenagers were arrested in Grenfell. Police arrested a 16-year-old boy from Basildon who was on suspicion of attempted murder, and a 19-year-old man from Grenfell on suspicion of causing grievous bodily. Essex police would now like to to speak to anyone who was in the area at the time, especially to those who have dashcam, doorbell or CCTV recordings. If you can help, contact police, quoting instant 7 on also given to independent charity crime officers 1,100 111. Proclamation news and gatherings, ladies and gentlemen. Please do not feel let's all support it. You know, it takes an idiot to pick up a knife and take someone's life. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. It's proclamation news and gatherings with the prodigious so much. That's all I can say. We'll cut that off there. Please, they are fun. Who's that, Mike? What's the matter? What have you done there? What are you playing at there, Mike? This show has been phenomenal. 946. Don't forget, we are sponsored by PSS Alarms. Please, if you need your business secure, give me an inbox. I'll give you the information needed. I'm going to say take care. Friday. Tomorrow, I'm not here tomorrow. I am busy, occupied by something or something come up to the horizon tomorrow. Thank you. God bless. I'll be back Thursday. Hopefully with more audience. Take care. God bless. Speak soon. I'll be back again. Come through, supporting the show. It really is amazing.